Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome to this week's program. We're so glad to have you. Spring is on its way, friends. I tell you what, nobody could look more forward to spring coming than a lot of us dyed-in-the-wool enthusiastic shooters, certainly. And what our program is about, of course, is to make more people enthusiastic shooters, because once you get out on the range, whether you're a man or a woman or a teenager, whatever, once you get out on the range and you start banging away with these things, and you do it safely, and you have eye protection and hearing protection, you're going to find out it is a great sport. It is so much fun. And this is one of the few sports that learning how to properly use your firearm could actually save your life, protect the lives of your family. So let's get underway today. Let's start a program. I've got a point to make here. This is a Ruger Super Blackhawk and 44 Magnum with full charge ammunition. So let me walk down here a little closer to our target. I'm going to try and make a point. All right, friends, bear in mind, 44 Magnum, to quote Clint Eastwood from years ago, and today it's one of the most powerful handguns in the world, yeah. So let's make a point here and see what happens. Well, a lot of noise, fire, and flash, a lot of power. Didn't hurt the water bottle because it missed. Now then, let's take our 22 long rifle Colt. Remember, a hit with a 22, even for one shot, is a whole bunch better than a miss with a 44 Magnum. A point that all of us need to remember. Now then, friends, with a 22, of course, it may take a few more hits to do what you have in mind. But as we've said before, a 22 with proper hits is not not an inconsiderable defensive gun. I've said, friends, it may take more hits with a 22 to get to do much damage or get attention, but I'll tell you what, it can be done. Now, friends, we've had a lot of correspondence in the past about the difference in rifle and handgun velocity. So we're going to run a little test today. We have several different types of ammunition that we're going to be running through our Pro Chrono chronograph here. We have our Remington Nylon 66, which is fairly representative of most 22 rifles, and we have our Colt 22. I understand that our little Colt 22, which we featured last week, originally started out as the Cadet, but another company was using the name Cadet on their gun, so Colt simply has gone to calling the little 22 semi-automatic handgun the Colt 22, which personally I think is a good idea. Anyway, well, we'll start with our rifle, and the first shell we have in both these guns is an Ely target load. So let's see what it does through our chronograph here. Okay, you can see that it went 1,040 feet per second, which is pretty good. But let's try that same round from our handgun. So we'll just leave the camera on the chronograph, and remember, this is the Ely standard velocity 22 long rifle. This is a target load. So let's see what the same bullet does out of our 4.5-inch barrel handgun. 868 feet per second. So our velocity was quite a bit different there. Less than 200 feet per second, but that's pretty much going to be a standard target velocity from a handgun. The 1,040 was actually a little better than I thought it would do from the rifle. Now then, friends, we're going to run several more bullet types through these guns. In fact, I was surprised that target, sometimes on a standard 22 automatic or auto loader as these guns are, the standard velocity or target velocity will not have enough oomph in them to operate the bolts or slide, as in the case of this Colt, but that one certainly did. A little better performance than I was really expecting there. Okay, friends, our next bullet is a Remington high velocity hollow point. So let's see what it does from the rifle. So watch the little numbers there on the chronograph. Let's see what it does. All right, 1,165 feet per second, which is about what we expected. Let's try the same bullet from our handgun. Excuse me, a little pollen out here today. So 997. So we're looking at about 100 and a little over 160 some odd feet per second difference. All right. Now then, that was the Remington comparison. Let's try the Federal high velocity. Just watch your screen there. Watch the little numbers there as they come up. All right, the Federal 1156. Let's see what it does from the handgun. Okay, 992. So the Federal had very close performance to the Remington. All right, the next one is the CCI small game bullet, and these are excellent squirrel hunting bullets. A really superior round as far as 22 long rifles go. Let's see what it does from the full length from the nylon 22. 1184. It had a little more steam to it than our Federal and Remington. Let's try it from the handgun now. Okay, 1033. Again, it showed a little more velocity. Now then, we finally come down to our Stinger. And the Stinger is really a high-performance 22 long rifle bullet. It has a 29 grain bullet with the same amount of powder as the heavier 40 grain bullets, ever what they are. And the Stingers really do perform well. Let's see what it does from the rifle. Realize we're looking as compared to standard high-velocity 22 long rifle of about 1150, 1175 feet per second. Well, let's chronograph the Stinger. See, 1,453 feet per second. So really a much higher performance, about 300 feet per second difference in velocity. And that does make a difference on small game. All right, let's try it from the handgun. So 1331 out of our handgun. Again, a very fine performance. In fact, the Stinger from the handgun went faster than the 22 high velocity from the rifle. Now, friends, our little experiment here gives you some idea of the differences in velocities between the 22 rifle and 22 handgun. And the rifles are always going to be typically a couple of hundred feet per second faster than the shorter barreled handguns. Of course, the Stingers, if you want full size, if you want rifle performance from a handgun, well, the Stingers are definitely the way to go. There are a couple of other higher performance 22 long rifles out there that we just don't happen to have today. But we've had a good number of requests to show this, and we want to do it. Our Pro Chronograph there, Pro Chrono, is available from Competition Electronics. We do appreciate their support of the Shootin' Show, and this has really been an excellent chronograph. We've used it on more projects than I can count, but they're such nice people. We do want to encourage you considering them if you need a chronograph. If you are a hand loader and you don't have a chronograph, well, that needs to be your next purchase before you buy your next gun. And these things now are down to the range where almost anybody can buy them. I've seen them advertised as low as, say, $100 or in that price range, and they really are handy because you don't know what your load is doing until you use one of these, and that is the greatest aid to a hand loader, certainly one of the more important things you can have.
Soldier of Fortune has served as watchdog and rallying point for more than 100,000 concerned Americans every month for 20 years. During that time, Soldier of Fortune magazine has always stood fast at the front lines in the battle against oppression at home and abroad, keeping our readers up to date on firearms legislation, the assault weapons ban, the Ranger ambush in Somalia, the Brady Bill, and even more restrictive Brady 2. And we show you how you can fight back. Soldier of Fortune was among the first to expose Handgun Control's true agenda, the eventual elimination of all guns in America. And we were there at Waco, digging up the real story behind the raid and the perverted political games that resulted in the death of nearly 80 men, women, and children. We were one of the only national magazines to cover the Randy Weaver standoff in Idaho, and the list goes on. And our coverage doesn't stop in the U.S. We also get into places overseas that the mainstream pretty boys wouldn't be caught dead in. So if you believe there's more to a story than what you see on TV, if you like your news hard-hitting and in-depth, if you want to read articles by people who have been there and have credentials to back up their opinions, you're probably one of us. Look for us the next time you're at a newsstand or subscribe by calling 1-800-877-5207. For only $25.95, you receive 12 issues, a full year's worth of unforgettable, important news from reporters who saw it happen. Call 1-800-877-5207. Visa, MasterCard accepted.
You know, friends, it's so much fun to be out on an afternoon on the range. We have some steel targets set up, and the good folks at Britton's have loaned us an AMT hardballer, which this is a pretty nice gun. Has a 7-inch barrel. Well, let's see it in action on our steel plates. So, and yes, I did apply that safety. Heck of a nice gun. Let's take a closer look. Friends, we could call this a tale of two 45s, I guess. Here's our regular Colt 1991 A1, the regular government model, and here is the AMT hardballer right above it. And as you can tell, this hardballer is in stainless steel. It is from the people out at AMT in California. And of course, there are a lot of companies that make 1911 type clones, and I would say that the folks at AMT are one of the better companies that do this. This gun is essentially a basic 1911 in 45 caliber, just like our Colt government model here, but you'll notice it has about a 2-inch longer barrel. Now that serves several purposes. One, it gives you an increased velocity over our standard 5-inch model, and we did some chronographing a little earlier, and we found that the regular hardball picked up about 100 feet per second more velocity out of this longer barrel. Now with some of the higher performance ammunition that we ran some carbine through it, it picked up about 50 feet per second, which I do think says something good for the carbine consistency. They load their handgun ammunition so it'll be very, very efficient in the gun it's designed for. But it did pick up another 50 feet per second or so from this AMT hardballer. It was called a hardballer because these guns were used for sport shooting. Some of the folks use these for pin shooting in earlier times. It does not have a compensator, and AMT, to my knowledge, no longer makes this gun, but there are some of them out there in circulation, and they do tend to be pretty nice guns. We've had varying experiences with the AMT guns. Some of them worked real well, some of them didn't, but I think most of the difficulties with the AMT 45s working can be traced back to the magazines. What most of us did in shooting these guns, we took our regular Colt type magazines and used them instead of the magazine that sometimes came in the gun. It was certainly, if you get one that works, well, that's great, and that's fine, but in our experience, some of the previous ones didn't work as well as we would like. For some 45 auto companies, it just depends. Most of them, when you go to the Colt type magazines, most of them will function if they're basic 1911. Now we're going to shoot a couple of shots here in our long slide here, or AMT hardballer. And of course it works just like any other 1911. You pull that slide all the way to the rear and let it go, and of course then we're going to apply our safety. These guns have an extended safety and extended slide stop or slide release, which some of you may like those, some of you may not. I'm not that much of a fan of the extended pieces there because they tend to get in my way a little more than work, but some people like them, and that's just your personal choice. But watch it in my hands. We'll compare it to our standard government model. You know, friends, this box of carbine ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are in fact a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because carbine is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of carbine on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that carbine is helping keep the shooting show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on carbine ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shooting Show.
The Shooting Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
friends, here we are with our advertising team. Of course, Al Evans and Bobby Christie here on my left. And the good news is they're talking to a lot of people from all over the country, and they're also handling the Shootin' Show Gun Club correspondence and taking those calls, and they're also going to be handling our merchandising. And if you have an old Bullet Express, well, don't worry. They're going to be sending out our new catalogs here very shortly. And we're really excited about this. You know, we've had in the past year, in fact, since the show has really come on the air, we've worked with people that volunteer their time and all, and sometimes things were slow and sometimes things didn't get done as well as we'd like. But thankfully, we're in a situation now that we can handle our correspondence a lot better. And this past year, we were out of stock on a number of items, and so they're going to be handling that for us. Gentlemen, I know you're talking to a lot of people out there, and it's worth an awful lot, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it really is. The way the renewals are coming in for memberships for the gun club, especially the charter members, it's just great. And some of them are saying, hey, we're writing and we're calling some of these manufacturers, asking them why don't they get on the show and advertise and help support us. And I tell you, it's just great, Johnny.
Well, that's a good point, and we would like to ask our gun club members, please write those letters to people like Smith & Wesson and Colt and Marlin and Ruger and all these companies out there that have a vested interest in what we're doing. Now, also, of course, this is our 5th year on the air. We're reaching 30 million households a week, friends, and this program is making a difference because you know who we need to reach. We need to reach those of us who are enthusiastic and dedicated shooters, but we need to reach those people that don't know much about these firearms, but they're interested enough to know, and they're willing to listen to our viewpoint. This is something that has to be done. The Shootin' Show Gun Club definitely has helped keep this program on the air, and we need your support. Please write those letters, and of course you can call us 1-800-895-7916 for the Gun Club renewal or to join our gun club. And of course, Bobby or Al, from about 9 to 5, they'll be taking your calls. Right. So we really do need your help, and it's a great thing for this program. We have so many things that we're going to be doing that is going to help all of us as shooters and basically as free Americans.
You know, Johnny, and we appreciate the response. We're getting a lot of calls out of the Shotgun News ad that we've put in there, and it's really working great. People are calling in. They weren't even aware that we had a Shootin' Show Gun Club, and we've been telling them about that, and that money helps the show stay on the air. The support we get from those people really does help, and you know, we appreciate it. We hope we get more members in the Shootin' Show Gun Club. That enables us to do more.
Yeah, we found out that the Shotgun News is a better publication really than we thought. We knew they were good, but they've got readership all over this continent, and people are calling in. We got a fax today from a gentleman in California asking for the rates for advertising, and it's just going great. But the Shootin' Show Gun Club members are our primary moral support, as well as some financial support from the dues. And all of you who want to join, remember it's $25 a year. And those who got the renewals, there was a question about that. It's still only $25 a year.
$25 a year. Plus the fact the members of the Gun Club and you other folks watching out there can help us get on local cable by calling your local cable company and telling them, hey, you want the Shootin' Show on the cable. We're the only show out there that's actually pushing and protecting the Second Amendment. Johnny and the judge and Kurt can't all do it. We need everybody's help, so we'd really appreciate y'all helping us out.
And together we can. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, one other thing. Our Bullet Express and our newly expanded catalog, special prices for members of the Gun Club, and then regular prices for people who don't belong to the gun club. So get your membership in, please.
And if you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. What are those numbers, gentlemen?
728-8486.
Yeah, let's make sure.
We both love to talk about this so much, we just talk about it. So it's 1-800-what?
728-8486.
Right.
If you'd like to advertise on our program. So anyway, we're so proud to be here. We're so glad to be in a position to do the things that we are doing, and we can do it only because of you and your support. We do appreciate it.
That's right. Thank you, folks.
All right. Edit. 3, 2, 1. All right, friends, let's take a couple of shots here, and let's see what it does in my hands. Now, we're shooting the PMC hardball here, and believe it or not, we got some unreal velocities from that particular box of PMC. We got velocities in excess of 950 feet per second for a 230 grain bullet. That's pretty good performance. Let's take a look here. Say just not much muzzle flip because you have the extra weight out there. All right, let's compare that to our 5-inch gun. Take a couple of shots with it. Here we go. I don't know if you can tell the difference or not. It has a different sensation when shooting. Probably doesn't kick quite as much, but these are very nice and serviceable guns. And I do understand that regardless of what age gun you have, if you have a problem or a breakdown of any sort, well, the good folks out at AMT will certainly take care of it. They still have parts available for these guns, and for that matter, I'm going to assume that almost any part in this gun would probably interchange with the standard Colt or Colt aftermarket parts. My friends, taking a look at the AMT, it is very nicely machined. Really, I think it's a shame that these guns are no longer in production. Of course, I understand most of their production is going to the Automag series and the double action new 45 they make, which we had on the show a while back. It has an adjustable trigger, you can see right here. This is what I'm talking about, an extended safety and extended slide stop here. It comes back quite a bit further, and I don't know, if you like that sort of thing, that's fine, but personally I could just soon do without it, but some people do like it. You have an excellent set of adjustable sights, and these guns are real easy. Now, one thing you get this longer sight radius here, and it makes it a little easier to hit with. And speaking of hit with, let's go ahead. We have a standard 7-round magazine here, and of course the way this works, put the magazine in the base, be sure it's all the way in, and pull that slide all the way to the rear and let it go. Of course, we're going to apply our safety. Well, let's take a couple of shots. We have some steel plates out here and see what it looks like. I have one over there on the right, if I can see it, and right there. Well, that's pretty good, folks. We got two with one shot. Well, that's why we always wear safety glasses when shooting steel, because sometimes you'll get a ricochet. Let's take a shot here. And yes, one thing, again, you get that extra performance from the extra length on this barrel. I'll tell you what, pretty nice gun if you ask me. Well, friends, I'll tell you what, we've had a couple of these different 1911 models from the folks at AMT, and our luck's been pretty good with them. We had one a couple of years ago we had some trouble with, sent it back to the factory. The people were extremely nice, and they really work to try and keep their gun owners happy, and that's certainly a nice thing we want to say about them. This has been a heck of a nice gun as far as shooting. It's been very reliable, and the limited amount we have shot it. I did some accuracy testing with it a little bit earlier, and accuracy seems to be pretty fair. We did not hunt around through a lot of different types of ammunition, and you know, that's one thing about any firearm, whether it's a 1911 type gun like this or a revolver. They will prefer different brands and types of ammunition. Now, the semi-automatics are going to be more finicky because some of them won't feed certain bullet profiles or different bullet types. But this gun has been pretty good with the different types of hollow points, and of course that we have some hardball here. And of course that's what it's called, is a hardballer. You do find these around in different gun shops and gun shows, and sometimes they're pretty good prices. And again, if you get one that works, well, that's great. And if you have a little problem with it, well, the folks out at AMT, in the past, is certainly our experience, they've been real good about fixing it. This gun has a very light trigger. It's been adjusted down for about a 2-pound trigger, which is really a little bit lighter than I like to have a semi-automatic, especially one that I might carry cocked and locked. I prefer 3.5, 4, even 5 pounds on a semi-automatic, just for safety's sake. But for the shooting games, for IPSC type shooting at the club levels, well, this will be a real fine gun for that. So, and let's take a couple more shots. How about the AMT hardballer? Certainly worth taking a look at.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you will recognize my esteemed colleague here, Leroy Scott. And we do want to make a statement. I certainly want to ask you, if you can vote for the board of the NRA, this is very important, please write his name in. Leroy Scott, 2620 Centenary Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, that zip code 71104, because the judge here will make a difference on the board of the NRA if we can he will certainly make waves. He will make some changes in that organization, which are, I think, desperately needed, because we need to do some things. We need to get in gear. Incidentally, sir, what about Bob Dole writing a letter to the NRA saying that he wants to repeal the assault gun ban?
Well, I think that the results of the November elections finally kind of sinking in on Bob Dole. It's kind of interesting. Now, we've got some news this week. First, again, on the NRA, Institute for Legislative Action Facts Network. We're getting news every week in on it. Comes in on a Friday afternoon or Friday evening after the night rates go on. This is volume 2, number 12. And they're telling us that the Second Amendment hearings are scheduled in the U.S. House. I enjoyed the way they put it. They said to punctuate with an exclamation point the end of Representative Charles Schumer's reign of terror in the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee on Crime. The subcommittee chairman, Bill McCollum, Republican of Florida, in support of the Firearms Legislative Task Force, chaired by Representative Bob Barr, Republican of Georgia, has announced 3 hearings on gun laws to pave the way for repeal of President Clinton's gun ban. First hearing scheduled for March 31st will discuss the inalienable right of self-defense. On April 5th, the committee will explore and reaffirm the true meaning of the Second Amendment. And finally, in the first week in May, committee members will hear testimony on the need to enforce existing gun laws. Now, here's what the request is. Contact your U.S. representative. Encourage that representative to testify before the subcommittee in support of McCollum's and the Firearms Legislative Task Force recommendations. Urge your lawmakers to stress the importance of protecting the civil liberties of law-abiding gun owners. Here's another thing they threw in, kind of gratuitously, I think. For a good many years, a number of governors and state legislators have been calling for a conference of the states to, among other things, host a convention to re-examine the United States Constitution. Currently, there isn't enough support for a constitutional convention to take place, but it's not far away. NRA is and has been opposed to the Conference of States and its call for a constitutional convention for some time, and believes that the law of our land does not need rewriting. Now, I think what the fear is that you get called a constitutional convention like that, and don't tell them what they'll do. Kind of reminded of what the lady said to Benjamin Franklin when the Continental Group wrote the first draft of the Constitution. She said, "What have you given us?" And that's what I'm afraid. I don't know what they will have given us. I remember, too, Franklin's answer, "A republic, if you can keep it." All right. In the NRA Facts, we got a lot of news from the states. That's the reason why you all need to do it, so you can tune in and get your information out to your people in the states. Georgia, huge victory for gun owners. Illinois, Kansas, Minnesota, Nevada, Oklahoma, Texas, Washington, West Virginia. Incidentally, in West Virginia, we've got a problem. Pro-gun Representative Bob Wise has taken a terrific beating from the Charleston Gazette for his public support for repealing Clinton's gun ban. West Virginia members should write the Gazette and voice support for Representative Wise's commitment to our freedom. For helpful tips on crafting these letters, they give you an 800 number to call where they'll help you. That's from, all right, now you members in West Virginia, take this down. 800-392-8683. And in Wisconsin. Now, there's no way that I can cover each one of these states in the time that we have allocated to this on the program. So it's very important that you get yourself on the NRA fax network, and that's 1-800-392-8683. If you don't have a fax, you got a friend that has one, get his number on it. And remember, every Friday evening we get one of these. This one is dated 3/17/95.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
More and more often, women are faced with protecting themselves and their homes. But another way of protection is through information. And we at the Shootin' Show believe that the New American Magazine has the best information that you can possibly get.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Friends, you need this magazine if you want to know what's going on. And in times like this, we need both of these. We need our guns, and we darn sure need our information.
This is the famous Thunder 5 revolver shooting the .45 Colt cartridge, also the .410 shotgun shell. It's also available in .45-70 and includes some caliber inserts that are optional. And let's get that snake. For information on the Thunder 5, call 1-800-654-0797. Again, that's 1-800-654-0797.
And I have a double treat this time. I have a fax from Gun Owners of America. Great outfit, more militant than the NRA, much less compromising, although I think the president of the NRA is kind of getting away from that compromise bit. And they'll get further away from me if you elect me to the board, I'll tell you that. Representative Helen Chenoweth, I may be pronouncing that and murdering it, it's Chenoweth, a Republican from Idaho, has told Gun Owners of America she is just days away from introducing a bill that will severely restrict the power of federal agencies like the BATF. The bill, which GOA helped draft, will require that federal agents first get permission from local sheriff before they can conduct an arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that may be good, it may not be. In most cases, probably is, because your local sheriffs are probably closer to you than the BATF is. However, we've got a situation I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes where that was not true. In addition to having to get permission to arrest anybody, it means that they have to continue to get approval every 48 hours. And that means if a siege gets out of hand,
Like Waco.
or like Ruby Ridge, the sheriff can simply refuse to give his commission and tell the feds to get lost. You know, this is a republic. It's not a federal system. It's a federal system, but only with certain powers reserved to the states. It's time for us to reassert those powers.
Well, that's the problem. You've had agencies going way beyond the powers they were ever granted. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. At least as far as I'm concerned, they've gone way beyond them.
Well, that looks like the EPA is another one.
Now, remember several weeks ago, I told you how the EPA was making an attempt to ban lead bullets, hazard to the environment. And normally when a federal agency acts to talk about passing a rule, their proposed regulations, you don't hear from them until they make their final decision. Not this time. Not this time. The Environmental Protection Agency told GOA that they were bombarded with letters and email from, quote, you guys, gun owners. Because many of you mentioned GOA in your letters, the Environmental Protection Agency officials set up a visit with GOA Executive Director Larry Pratt to discuss the matter further. They admitted that such a meeting was out of the ordinary, but they wanted to speak to the group that had generated so much opposition to their regulations. That's the way to go, fellows. That's the way to go. And we'll have a report on that meeting in the April issue of the Gun Owners Newsletter. And they're telling you, if you're not receiving the newsletter, you can become a GOA member and start receiving the newsletter by calling an 800 number, 417-1486. 417-1486. Basic membership's $20. Well, remember we had a deal, I guess we still have it,
Yeah, we still...
where you can join GOA if you are a
Gun club
Shoot and Show Gun Club member for $10 1 year. The GOA saying their upcoming newsletter will tell you about the dangers of the beast. That's H.R. 666, House Resolution 666. And it will tell you who voted against the Volcker Amendment. That's the amendment to H.R. 666, which would prevent BATF from getting a license to kick in your door of your home. Well, they're making a request that you ask your local gun dealers to join the Patriot Dollars program. If they don't know what that is, call GOA and find out. They're telling us, too, that last August and September, a lot of contributions went in by credit card, and they were in the process of changing what they call a fulfillment house. That's the outfit that actually processes the credit card orders. And so they are now going ahead and processing those orders, and they're saying if you would not like us to process your contribution, call us before Tuesday, March 21st, that's tomorrow, at 703-321-8585. And they're asking for your forgiveness for the delay. Well, I don't guess they need to forgive much. It's money that stayed in your account. If you want to join a GOA and get the newsletter, you can do it through
Our gun club.
our gun club, or you can do it direct with GOA, and that's 800-417-1486. Now, in addition, if you wish or if you are willing to make a contribution to help finance GOA's excellent fax network, they're asking that you do that. And their fax number is 703-321-8408. I cannot tell you how important these faxes are. That is instant communications.
Well, it's instant mail.
It's instant mail. It's instant communications. It gets the word out and really does a lot of good. Now for the bad news. You know there are a lot of state militias that are being formed, or independent militia groups. Now, we've spoken on that before.
Yes.
And if it's a state militia or local militia sponsored by some government agency, fine, because they clearly have the right under the Constitution to do that. But a lot of militia have been just kind of independent clubs,
Set up.
loose cannons, what have you. And a key leader in the militia of Montana, MOM, Militia of Montana, and 6 other men have been arrested by local authorities in Montana on charges that include felony intimidation, and this may be the start of a well-orchestrated crackdown on militias and other patriotic groups all over America. I can't go over this 3-page report, but let me tell you, they've got some of the militia leaders in jail on $100,000 bonds, and they've gotten the FBI in on it, and I understand that the FBI is somewhat unhappy about it, or at least that's the report. But in any event, you need, this is what you all can do. Get in touch with the sheriff who is behind all of this at Muscle Shell, M-U-S-S-E-L-S-H-E-L-L, Muscle Shell County in Montana. The report here is that their deputies are totally out of control.
Hello, friends. I'm out here practicing for one of the most fun hunting sports that you can imagine. You can use a variety of action types. You have access to year-round hunting, some cases no limits, and you get to use a variety of guns. Well, you know what I'm talking about is a sport of varmint hunting. And we need to introduce you folks to varmint hunting. A lot of us have been doing it for years and didn't know what to call it, but we especially need to introduce you to the Varmint Hunter magazine.
You know, friends, varmint hunting is one of the fastest growing shooting sports in the world. In fact, the Varmint Hunters Association, they have members in all 50 states and 19 foreign countries. Now, their magazine focuses on varmint hunting and super accurate reloading and shooting techniques. Plus, there's a lot of humor, a lot of interesting cartoons and humorous articles in the magazine. Incidentally, the magazine is large, it's very high quality, and something I think you're really going to enjoy reading, and it's published quarterly. It's only $24 for an associate membership in the Varmint Hunters Association. And look, for information, now you ought to do this. If you're a dedicated shooter, this is something I think you're really going to enjoy. For information on the Varmint Hunter magazine and the Varmint Hunters Association, call them at 1-800-528-4868. Again, 1-800-528-4868. Be sure and tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show. Friends, you can communicate with the Shootin' Show on CompuServe now. Our number is 735-42-3024. Again, 735-42-3024. And to join our Shootin' Show Gun Club, call us at 1-800-895-7916. We take Visa, MasterCard, check, money order, whatever you got. Join today, friends. We need to reach as many people as we can.
We as Americans have the right to choose or pursue the best of anything. But when it comes to ammunition, for a handgun or rifle or even some specialty calibers, Corbine is the best.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
In Maryland, there's a board that's been set up under some law that they have. They call it a roster board. They were proposing to ban some 300 types of handguns that would have been banned from sale by dealers or individuals in Maryland if the recently considered regulations had been adopted. That would have taken the great majority of guns, including 22 caliber single action revolvers. Maryland is against handgun abuse. The anti-gun group that pushed for passage of the law that created the Maryland Handgun Roster Board in '88 recently began urging the state to adopt regulations which will have resulted in the ban. They're unhappy that many small personal defense handguns are approved for sale in the state. Well, you know, sometimes that's all a poor person can afford, and
That's a good point.
and I think poor people are as entitled to protect themselves as anybody else. There seems to be a widespread government thing about concealed handgun permits. Our view is that it usually results in a decrease in crime because criminals don't know who to tackle.
That's
and
right.
They do not want to tackle somebody that is armed.
The criminal mind will never compete or will never attack someone on an equal basis. Criminals by nature, in the great majority, are cowardly people. And I think you'll agree with that, won't you? Criminals by
Probably.
nature
Or
are
thugs.
cowardly.
Or thugs.
That's right. They typically pick on children, on women, on older people who they feel like cannot adequately defend themselves. Well, see, when you put a revolver or some sort of handgun, and regardless of what your stature may be, suddenly everything's equal, even if the criminal's armed. And this is what is so irritating. There are people out there who cannot conceive of the concept of personal defense.
Well, you know, that's the old cliche. Sam Houston made Texans free. Sam Colt made them equal. And I'm reminded of a riddle that my son asked me once. He says, "Where does an 800-pound gorilla sleep?" Answer:
Anywhere he wants.
anywhere he wants. And if you are armed, you're the equivalent of an 800-pound gorilla.
Well, at least you will not be run over. And we didn't make society like it is. We didn't set up these crazy, these nuts out there walking around trying to take advantage of other people. And in every instance where you see the most stringent, the tightest anti-gun laws, you're going to see high crime rates because people will take advantage.
Well, again, a lot of this comes out over the in the little publication Gun Week. Again, it's a publication that I like, I subscribe to, and I boost it. And boy, they can get rough. They're talking about Richard Lugar, who's now in the Republican presidential nomination race. This is what they say about Lugar. They say that they know two different Lugars. The Lugar that was elected to the Senate on a claim of supporting the right to keep and bear arms, and the Lugar that now
Turned on us.
has turned on us.
Well, you know, friends, that's one reason that this segment with the judge is so important, because we have to let you know that these people are working against us every day. I mean, there is a threat, and you know, as conservatives, as people that would like to be left alone, a lot of times we'll look the other way and say, well, maybe if we just ignore it, it'll go away. The anti-gun people are not going away. That's why we can't go away either. We cannot. We as gun owners, as right-thinking citizens, cannot let down our guard. We constantly have to be on the defense. In fact, I think we need to be on the attack as far as keeping our freedoms. And friends, let me tell you what, there hasn't been a country that when the civilian population was armed, that their own government took them over. Am I correct on that?
That's right. That's right, Johnny. They're after Lugar, saying that in one case he said, "I support the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms." Then they say that he defended his vote for the Brady Bill in the same language, except this time he listed the waiting period as a reasonable restriction. So after 2 decades in Washington, Lugar has moved from viewing gun control bills as decoys to seeing them as reasonable restrictions as he casts longing eyes at the White House.
Well, that's just like what's happened. You give these anti-gun people, give them an inch, and they will take a mile if we let them. Just like what happened in Maryland. They said, well, we're going to set up a board here. We're not going to take anybody's reasonable gun. Who decides what's reasonable? People in the government or people that they put on these boards, who are they to decide what is reasonable for us to have as far as firearms?
So you can see that even though we had a good result in November in the elections, that we still have battles to fight. They're fought on the local level, they're fought on the state level, they're fought on the city and county level, and you cannot sit back and relax. I saw another fax that came in today, and it's frightening, literally frightening, because we've got an arms control and disarmament agency set up in the United States by statute and their avowed aim is to disarm everybody. Disarm everybody. Do away with our armed services, except such as to maintain, quote, local order. They even want to take guns away from the police. And then they want to be able to deploy through the United Nations American troops somewhere else and let foreign troops come in here and enforce what they consider to be their rules in the United States of America.
Well, that's
we
not-
cannot permit that. I think it's unconstitutional. I think it's illegal. But it's going to take everybody working in that regard.
And for too long, our decent citizens have sat back and let these people get away with it. Friends, the fight has only begun.
And we're winning it, but let's keep on
Let's
winning
do
it.
it.
Friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska, the zip code 68902, their phone number, area 402-463-4589, MasterCard or Visa for subscriptions only. Now call them at 1-800-345-6923.
And now we would like to welcome one of our good friends here at the Shootin' Show, Art Alphin, who is a former instructor from West Point. I think you're really going to enjoy this piece.
You have all studied the deadlock of trench warfare in World War I. You have also learned that there are 3 major categories of solutions to the deadlock: the technical, tactical, and strategic. I would like to focus on one problem and then talk about one technical solution to it. The problem at hand is the problem of trench assault. After you have managed to survive your trip across no man's land and you get near an enemy trench, how do you rid that trench of all the anti-social people who are in it? By the time you get to the enemy's trench, he may well outnumber you, and you and he are both armed with bolt-action magazine rifles and the bayonet. Cleaning out a trench with a bayonet, though it can certainly be successful, is a relatively high-risk operation that consumes a great deal of manpower. Many armies experimented with new weapons which might help their soldiers do this job. In order to illustrate this point, we have prepared a target array which will give you some idea of what a soldier jumping into an enemy trench might have had to confront. The target array will consist of 3 stationary silhouette targets to the left, 3 more stationary silhouette targets to the right, and, after those are engaged, a surprise pop-up silhouette target that would roughly approximate an enemy soldier running out of a bunker or communications trench. As we engage this target array with various weapons, you should look at the advantages and disadvantages of each weapon going through the same target run. The first weapon will be the bolt-action rifle with the bayonet. The obvious problem with the bolt-action rifle is the long period of time between shots. The relatively small magazine capacity when you are dealing with an abundance of targets, and the requirement to go in with the bayonet. One of the American solutions was the riot or trench shotgun. This Model 97 trench shotgun is a good example of many of the weapons that were tried. Though it has a bayonet lug, it normally was not used with the bayonet. It fires a 12-gauge shotgun shell, which is loaded with buckshot. Depending on the size of the buckshot, it may hold anywhere from 9 to 24 pellets per shell. The weapon was a pump action, which means it was cycled by pulling the slide back and then pushing it forward. This motion extracted and ejected the empty cartridge in the chamber, fed a new round up from the magazine, locked it into the chamber, and cocked the weapon. The shooter then only had to pull the trigger. Due to the shortage of spare parts for this 1897 riot gun, a new Model 500 riot gun will be used. The shells each hold 13 number 0 buckshot. One of the major problems with the shotgun is quite obvious. Its tubular magazine holds only 6 rounds, and in order to reload it, the rounds must be individually inserted by the shooter. There is no magazine charging. When out of ammunition, it takes a long time to reload, and the shooter is vulnerable. The weapon appears to be very, very fast. The shooter killed his 6 stationary targets in well under 3 seconds. However, that can normally not be done in the hands of the ill-trained soldier.
Friends, we've run out of time on this week's program for this feature, and we'll come back to it on our next program. Incidentally, if you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call us at 1-800-SAVE-YOUR-GUN. That's 1-800-728-8486. Our staff will be very happy to talk to you. Well, friends, it's happened again. We've run out of time for today's program. From Kurt, the judge, myself, we want to thank everyone for being with us for today's program, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Shootin' Show.